Hello, hello. Okay. Come on, we are on the live right now. So let's continue read the book, The Cry for War. The purpose of the cabal would have been better served had an American ship been sunk by the Germans, but a British ship with 100 war John was sufficient to do the job. Wasting no time in whipping up public sentiment, Wilson sent a note of outraged indignation to the Imperial German government, and this was widely quoted in the press. Outraged, 愤怒的 indignation 强烈愤慨 to the Imperial German government. At that time, Brian had become completely disillusioned by the duplicity of his own government. On May 9, he sent a door note to Wilson. Germany has a right to prevent contraband going to the Allies, and the ship carrying contraband should not rely upon passengers to protect her from attack. It would be like putting women and children in front of an army. This did not deter Wilson from his commitment. The first note was followed by an even stronger one, with threatened overtones, which was intensely discussed at the cabinet meeting on the 1st June. McDowell, who was present at the meeting, says, "I remember that Brian had little to say at the meeting. He sat throughout the proceeding with his eyes half closed most of the time. After the meeting, he told the president, as I learned later, that he could not sign the note." Brian went on to say that he thought his usefulness as Secretary of State was over, and he proposed to resign. At the request of Wilson, McDowell was dispatched to Brian's home and pursued, pursued, pers- persuade, persuade, pers- persuade the Secretary to change his mind, lest his resignation be taken as a sign of disunity within the president's cabinet. Brian agreed to think it over one more day, but the following morning his decision remained firm. In his memoirs, annotated by his wife, Mrs. Brian, reveals 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 that her husband could not sleep that night. He was so restless. I suggested that he read a little till he should become Josie. 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 He had in his handbag a copy of an old book printed in 1829 and called a res, wreath of appreciation of Andrew Jackson. We found it very interesting. What irony, 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 what irony, 搞笑的是，讽刺的是。In Chapter 17, we shall review the total war waged by President Jackson against the Bank of the United States. The predecessors, the predecessor, 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 predecessor for the Federal Reserve System, and we shall be reminded that it was Jackson who prehensed prophecy, pro, prophecy, prophecy. Is there no danger to our liberty, to our liberty, 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 to our liberty and independence in a bank that is natural has so little to bind it to our country? Is there no cause to tremble for the purity of our elections in peace and for the independence of our country in war, controlling our currency, receiving our public monies, and holding thousands of our citizens in dependency? It would be more formidable and dangerous than a novel and naval and military power of the enemy. One can only wonder what thoughts went through Brian's mind as he recalled Jackson's warning and applied it to the artificial created war. Hysteria that at that very moment was being generated by the financial powers on Wall Street and at the newly created Federal Reserve. From England, Colonial House, Colonial, House sent a telegram to President Wilson, which he in turn read to his cabinet. It became the genius of thousands of newspapers editorials across the land. He said fiercely, 虔诚的 fiercely. America had come to the parting of the ways when she must determine whether she stands for civilized or uncivilized warfare. We can no longer remain neutral. Neutral, spectators. Our action in this crisis will determine the part we will play when peace is made, and who and how far we may influence a settlement for the lasting good of humanity. We are being weighted in the balance, and our position amongst nations is being assessed by mankind. In another telegram, two days later, House reveals himself as the master psycho psychopolitician playing on Wilson's ego like a violinist stroking the strings of state Stradivarius. He wrote, "If unhappy it is necessary to go to war, I hope you will give the world an exhibition of American efficiency that will be a lesson for a century or more. It's generally believed throughout Europe that we are so unprepared and that it would take so long to put our resources into action that our entering would make but little difference. In the event of war, we should accelerate the manufacture of munitions to such an extent that we could supply not only ourselves but our allies. Our ally, and so quickly that the world would be astounded, astounded, astounded. Congress could not resist the cabinet prayer of the press and the president. On April, the United States officially declared war on the Axis powers. 8 days later, Congress dutifully, dutifully passed the War Loan Act, which extended $1 billion in credit to allies. The first advance of 200 million went to the British the next day and was immediately applied as payment on the debt to Morgan. A few days later, 100 million went to France for the same purpose, but the drain continued. Within 3 months, the British had run up their overdraft with Morgan to $400 million, and the firm presented it to the government for payment. The Treasury, however, was unable to put its hands on that amount of money without jeopardizing jeopard, jeopard, jeopardizing jeopardizing its own spendable funds and at first refused to pay. The problem was quickly solved, however, through a maneuver described at some length in Chapter 10. The Federal Reserve System under Benjamin Strong simply created the needed money through the Mandrake mechanism. The Wilson administration found itself in an extremely uh, awkward, awkward position, having to bail out. JP Morgan wrote failure, but Benjamin Strong offered to help Treasury Secretary find out of the difficulty. Over the following months, the Treasury quietly paid Morgan piecemeal for the overdraft. By the time the war was over, the Treasury had loaned a total of, including giving after the American armistice. That was the cash flow they had long awaited. In addition to saving the Morgan loans, even larger profits were to be made from war production. The government had been secretly preparing for war for 6 months period, 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 period to the actual declaration. According to Franklin D. Roosevelt, the then Assistant Secretary of the Navy Department began extensive purchasing of war supplies in the fall of Benjamin Longberg at this perspective. By no accident, all strategic government posts, notably those concerned with buying, were reserved for the Wall Street patriots. On the most vital appointment, Wilson consulted with Doug, president of Rockefeller's National City Bank, who recommended that the hitherto unknown branch speculator in copper stock as chairman of the all-powerful War Industries Board. As head of the War Industry Board, Borash spent government funds at the rate of $10 billion annually. Branch packed the War Industries Board and its committee with past and future Wall Street manufacturers industry list, analysts and their agents who fixed prices on a cost-plus basis, and a subsequent investigation revealed saw to it that costs were grossly padded so as to yield hidden profits. The American soldiers fighting in the trenches, the people working at home, the entire nation under arms were fighting not only to subdue Germany, but to subdue themselves. That there's nothing metaphysical about this interpretation becomes clear when we observe that the total wartime expenditure of the United States government oh my god, 2年半 when the last contingent of troops returned from Europe was 35 billion. Net coverage profits for the period 5年 when wartime industrial activity was finally liquidated were 38. All proceeds the amount of war expenditures. More than two-thirds of these cooperation profits were taken by precisely those enterprises which the Peugeot Committee had found to be under the control of the money trust. The banking cartel was able, through opposition of Federal Reserve system, to create the money to give to England and France, so they in turn could pay back the American banks exactly as was to be done again in World War II and again in the big bailout of the 1980s and 90s. It's true that in 1970 the recent enacted income tax was useful for raising a sizable amount of revenue to conduct the war, and also, as Beardsley Rumor pointed out a few years later, to take purchasing power away from the middle class. But the greatest source of funding came, as it always does in wartime, not from direct taxes, but from the hidden tax called inflation. Between the money supply doubled from to conversely, during World War One, the purchasing power of the currency fell almost 150%. That means Americans only paid to the government approximately one half of every dollar that existed, and that was in addition to their taxes. This massive infusions of money was the product of the Mandrake mechanism and cost nothing to create. Yet the banks were able to collect the interest on it all. The Asians partnership between the political and monetary scientists had performed its mission well. Okay, summary. The the early stage of the World War, England and France had borrowed heavily from investors in America and had selected the House of Morgan as sales agent for their bonds. Morgan also acted as their purchasing agent for war materials, thus profiting from both ends of the cash flow. Once when the money was borrowed and again when it was spent, further profits were derived from production contracts split with communists within the Morgan orbit. But the war began to go badly for the Allies when Germany's submarines took virtual control of the Atlantic shipping lanes. As England and France moved closer to defeat or negotiate peace on Germany's terms, it became increasingly difficult to sell their bonds. No bonds meant no purchases, and the Morgan cash flow was threatened. Furthermore, if the previously sold bonds should go into default, as they certainly would in the wake of defeat, the Morgan consortium 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 would suffer gigantic losses. The only way to save the British Empire, to restore the value of the bonds, and to sustain the Morgan cash flow was for the United States government to provide money. But since neutral nations were prohibited from doing that by treaty, America would have to be brought into the war. A secret agreement that the to that effect was made between British officials and the Colonial House, with the concurrence of the President. From that point onward, Wilson began to pressure Congress for a declaration of war. This was done at the very time he was campaigning for re-election on the slogan, "He keeps us out of the war." Meanwhile, Morgan over, purchased control over major segments of the news media and engineered a nationwide editorial blitz against Germany, calling for the war as an act of American patriotism. Patriotism. Morgan had created an international shipping cartel, including Germany's merchant fleet, which maintained a near monopoly on the high seas. Only the British Cunard lines remained law. The Lusitania was owned by a canal and operated in competition 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 with Morgan's cartel. The Lusitania was built to military specifications and was registered with the British Admiralty as an armed auxiliary cruiser. She carried passengers as a cover to conceal her real mission, which was to bring contraband war materials from the United States. This fact was known to Wilson and others in his administration, but they did nothing to stop it. When the German embassy tried to publish a warning to American passengers, the department intervened and prevented newspaper from printing it. When the Lucent left New York Harbor on her final voyage, he was virtually a floating ammunition depot. The British would mean the difference between the defeat and the victory, and anything that could accomplish that was the proper even the cold calculated sacrifice of one of her greatest ships with Englishmen aboard, when the trick was to have Americans on board also in order to create the proper emotional climate in the United States as moved into hostile waters. When the German U-boat was known to be operating, First Lord of the Administrator Wilson ordered her destroyer protection to abandon her. This that she was being ordered to travel at reduced speeds made her an easy target. After the impact of one well-placed torpedo, a mighty second explosion from within ripped her apart, and the ship that many believed could not be sunk. Gar- Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle to the bottom, unless, in less than. New Russia against the Germans, there was eventually flooded through Washington and threw the United States into war. Within days of the declaration, Congress voted 1 billion debt in credit for England and France. 200 million was sent to England immediately and was applied to the Morgan accounts. The vast quantity of money needed to finance the war was created by the Federal Reserve System, which means it was collected from Americans through that hidden tax called inflation, with just 5 years for all safeness. 嗯，太可恶了。 Chapter 13, Masquerade in Moscow. Masquerade, the secret society founded by Cecil Rhodes for the purpose of the world domination. Dominate the establishment in America of a branch that called the Council of Foreign Relations. The role played by financiers represents both of these groups in financing the Russian Revolution. The use of the Red Cross mission in Moscow as a cover for that maneuver. Oh my goodness, Red Cross. Oh my goodness. Contemporary history is that. The Bolshevik was a popular uprising for this doctrine. OK， 第一次世界大战现在明白了，这些政治家就是要钱，所以无论是川普也好，还是拜登也好，还是这些政治家，无非就是 money 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 Wall Street Congress and especially the media. Okay, money money money. Okay, I think that's all for today. Tomorrow we will read the new chapter, the chapter 13. 化妆舞会 Mask Masquerade Masquerade in Moscow. Okay, I think that's all for today. Let's wrap it up today. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.